Black Talk Radio Network is made possible in part with help from the Black Talk Media Project, a North Carolina-based nonprofit engaged in the production and distribution of independent digital black media. Find out more by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com or blacktalkmediaproject.org and look for the menu tab, Crowdfunding Black Media. Black Talk Media Project, helping to provide you with new black media for the new millennium. And opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for listening to our program, Blacks in Business Radio. We are here. This is a pre-recorded show for the first part, and it's a good thing because we get to acknowledge Brother Robert's birthday. Brother Robert, are you on the line here with us?
Yes, I am. How are you, SiSi?
I am good. So happy born day to you. How do you feel being a year older today?
I feel great. I mean, you never mentally acknowledge aging. Your body does, but your mind stays the same. You just add more knowledge to it, but the mind does not comprehend that the body cannot do what you think it can.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I think that we mustn't subscribe to really the body getting older. We know that, of course, it does, but with the change in diet and a change in activity, I think we can sustain our bodies a little bit longer. And our bodies have the ability to keep up with our minds if we do what we need to do. That's what I believe. I think we can. So with a few changes, I think that we can make things better. And you have done some things over the last few months concerning your diet and how you're eating and that kind of thing. Have you noticed any change?
Well, yeah. I mean, definitely cutting back on eating meat have definitely created a physical change. Everybody at the marketplace is noticing that I'm slimming down a lot. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really a big guy anyway, but nevertheless, you can hear it from people, and that's just by cutting back on the meats and the sugars. One of my favorite dishes was the ice cream, and I pushed back from all of it. I pushed back from the sweets. I didn't eat a lot of sweets anyway, but just mainly now you may find me eating more vegetables and more sweet-wise, more fruit. Definitely wasn't a big candy eater anyway. But those things there, my focus is just to keep away from any mucus-causing foods and definitely drink as much alkaline water as regularly as often, but it's you can notice a big change you will notice a big change once you actually start living a healthier lifestyle. You would definitely notice a big change, and it feels good, you know.
Mhm. Mhm. So, what would you say to somebody who wants to start but hasn't started? When I say start, I mean like just changing their whole their eating habits. Like if they're doing a whole lot of snacking and find themselves being pulled towards the sugars and all that stuff.
Well, it definitely starts from in your mind. You said for someone who wants to start but hasn't started. Well, for a long time, I was always thinking, I need to do better. I need to do better. I need to do better. And meeting you was an encouragement. On top of already knowing, but so I guess that would have something to do with your environment. The people around you. You're gonna have to change the people around you that are into what it is that you say you want to do with your health. Find yourself a different environment. Find yourself a different set of people to be around, if that's possible in your lifestyle. And change the people around you so that you can encourage or support your own thinking. And that's been a really big help for me. Because I don't be around a lot of people. Me and you spend a lot of time around each other, and the blessing of that is I didn't have to convince you of trying to change your eating lifestyle. You came along with that already on the plate, and so it was just a matter of time, just be in my own mind, just getting to the point to where I say, okay, this has to happen, and that's the main thing. You can be thinking, and if you're thinking it, then that's a great start. You got to be thinking about what you need to do in order to actually make the next step. And then once you get to a point to where you get fed up and you're ready for change, because ain't nothing greater than a made up mind. And once that mind is made up for change and you actually move out, once you take the first step, then you're already on the road. You're there. You're where you need to go. You just have to stay consistent and keep building on that. And then you'll start seeing the benefits of it. And once you start seeing the benefits of it, then that's going to be the encouragement to keep on going. So you definitely, people, we can do it. We definitely can do it.
Right. And the most important thing is people don't beat themselves up. I was kind of thrusted into it. I've told the story 100,000 times because of taking care of my mom. But you might slip up, a few times. You probably will slip up a few times, and you'll, beat yourself up and this type of thing because you decided to have some ice cream or you decided to have a piece of chicken or whatever. But, just dust yourself off, get up, start again, and you'll be fine. I mean, it's about a lifestyle change. And you have to watch what you're saying. I listen to people all the time talking about my cheat day. Well, cheat day, I mean, that means that you're going to go overindulge, not just indulge, but you're going to go overindulge into some type of sugary, greasy, whatever type of situation, something that you really have said that you want to stay away from. So when you use those words, cheat day, think about who it is you're cheating. I mean, you're cheating yourself. So it's time to really start thinking of better choices, because when you make better choices concerning your eating and your health, you can make better business choices, okay? Because that's what we are. We are Blacks in Business. We are a business and entrepreneurial radio show, and we want to promote the entrepreneur all the way around, not just giving you some guests and some advice, but we want to also make sure we're looking out for your health. We're living this life, people, so it's not that we're just saying some things and coming up with some things and just throwing them out there. No, we're actually striving towards that perfected lifestyle, because we know that, when you live better, it promotes longevity. We're not going to live forever, But why kill yourself? Why help this world kill you? You don't have to do that. I mean, it's just totally unnecessary. When I see people still smoking, you think that, that's crazy, but that's just one of those things that people have to change. The smoking, the bad eating, the not drinking enough water. I mean, it's just some basic things that we can do to promote longevity. So with that being said, again, I
was going one other thing I want to add to that is really changing your honesty level with yourself, because a lot of times most people are so prone to lie to themselves and lie in general, where you really just, it becomes habit forming just to tell yourself a lie or make yourself believe what you want to believe or think what you want to think. So one of the things that I've always challenged myself is to be honest with myself. You see, and and that's a practice. That really is a practice, because you really have to catch yourself, even if you alter the story just a little bit. You have to, in the most descriptive way, give it the way it really was instead of adding more to it, because we kind of add things to it. So we have to be honest with ourselves in order to achieve any kind of real success. Because if you're not honest with yourself, yeah, it sounds good, but then, hey, at the end of the day, or I know at the end of the day that, okay, I wasn't totally honest about this. So if you don't be honest with yourself, you're not going to grow in the way you need to grow. And taking care of your body physically, you have to look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Say, hey, I need to change some of my ways, and it just, obesity really is not only just from eating, it's a mental condition. And you have to be honest with yourself and be able to look at yourself and find in your existence, in your being, why am I doing this? So it really takes some soul searching and some true honesty to come out of some of these bad habits that we have. We just are not doing these things just because they're available to do. We're doing these things for some type of gratification, some type of pain relief, mentally or spiritually or emotionally. We're doing it for that. So we have to be honest with ourselves about it. I want to add that to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, most definitely. I mean, again, we need to cover the whole entrepreneur. And if you're dealing with the mental and the physical, you've got a heads up there. So let's do this. Let's do our segue now. We do have a guest today. His name is Paul Allen, and he is putting out a book called How to Become a Millionaire. If a Black guy can do it, so can you. So I'm interested in speaking with him because, we have people trying to come on this platform and say all types of things, and they really can't qualify. And we're not, we're not here to bust anybody out or anything, but we are definitely here to give the right information to our listeners. I mean, if you qualify as a millionaire, then you could totally help us on the pathway to wealth. So let's definitely go ahead and introduce Mr. Paul Allen here. Greetings. Do we have our guest on the line?
Good morning, Brother Robert and SiSi. How are you?
Good morning.
Great. Wonderful.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on with us. Now, you've been listening to what we're talking about. What do you have to add to that?
Well, just to give you some background to the listeners, I actually am a physician, so talking about health and diet is actually pretty important. Brother Robert is right, though, in terms of no matter how well we take care of our bodies and how well we eat, human lifespan is only somewhere between 76 and 80 years old. And so it's just about being as healthy as possible during that period of time so you can achieve the things that you want pain-free and, just moving forward in life the best way that you can. But diet is the big part of it. I think one of the challenges that we have in the African-American community is, we like those comfort foods, the mac and cheese and, greens, things like that. And so we just need to realize that there is a time and place for those foods. I think it's a little bit naive to assume that no one's ever going to touch those foods again. But everything is about being in moderation and, combining the diet as well with your exercise.
Right.
And one of the things I do, what I've had to do, because at times I've, eaten things that I shouldn't eat. I would go into my pantry on occasion and I'll just throw out all the unhealthy stuff, the Chips Ahoy, the Cheetos, all these things that I like to snack on occasion. I'll just throw all those things out of the closet because I realize I don't throw those things into the garbage out of the closet because I realize I don't have the discipline to not eat those things. So one, if I go to the supermarket, I won't ever buy those things. Or two, if I'm weak enough and I do buy those things, then when I get home at some point, if I realize I'm eating them too much, I'll just throw them in the garbage.
Wow. Well, you know what? The first step has been taken. So you're telling us that you are a physician. Now, what type of physician are you?
I'm an emergency physician. So anytime anyone has been to an emergency room for themselves or their family member, I would be the doctor that takes care of you.
Okay. So, wow, that's amazing. Now, what got you started in that direction? Now, we always have to ask, because that's pretty prestigious to become a physician, and you're going to break all that down for us. But do you come from two supportive parents that got you in this position?
No, I grew up in inner city New York, single mother who raised me. She was a nurse, though, so that gave me some exposure to the medical field. Also to give the listeners some background, I'm 43 years old, so if you go back in time about 30 years ago, there was no internet. There wasn't a lot of the things that are around today, and so people's choices of what you wanted to do when you grew up were pretty standard. You either became a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, some kind of business person. And so that was, my mindset was very traditional in what I wanted to do. When I was in high school, initially I wanted to be a lawyer, but when I was in high school, I took a law class and it was the most boring thing that I ever did. And so I realized this wasn't for me. And I always had an interest in science, and I had some exposure to healthcare through my mom being a nurse, that I realized, okay, I'll go forward to be a doctor.
Wow, that is very powerful. So what got you here to this place of writing this book? I want to read it. I want to read this part. It says, according to statistics, a Black guy has the lowest probability in the world of becoming a millionaire. So if I did it, so can you. This is unlike any other personal finance book you may have read. Conventional thinking plus conventional actions equal conventional results. I want so much more for you. My hope is that after reading this book and applying the information contained within, you will be inspired to begin or accelerate your own millionaire journey. I'll share some unknown gems, including the following highlights. So I'll let you talk about those highlights. So it says here that, you can help us become a millionaire. So are you, in fact, a millionaire?
Yes. I think there's no validity to anything that I'm going to say if I haven't achieved what I'm trying to inform the audience about. Talk is cheap, and I think in today's society with the internet, social media, people can say a lot of things that aren't true. But, one of the things that, why did I write the book? You kind of mentioned that, or in passing, is that as you get to a certain stage of life, like I said, I'm 43, you start thinking about, okay, what is my life going to be about? I've lived half of my life. What's the second half going to look like? And so, it required me to do some, deep reflection and introspection. And I realized that, why I became a doctor is that I really wanted to help people. And so when I took the concept of helping people, I just expanded it to say, well, in what other ways can I help people? And, all around me, particularly people in the African American community, I see that we're struggling financially. Even though I'm doing well as an individual, I have family members who may be struggling financially. I have friends who may be struggling financially. So just because I became successful, I haven't forgotten about the people around me and wanting them to have, a similar level of success. Now, I understand not everybody necessarily wants to be a millionaire, but people want to have a certain level of financial security where they're not worrying about the next bill, or if their kid has to, go to school or college or things like that. There's always that financial stress. And, and depending on where you are in your life cycle, you may be kind of in the middle where you're raising kids and at the same time having to worry about taking care of parents. And so, again, a lot of financial stress as well. And so, knowing that money isn't everything, but everything is money, I want people to find a way to do better for themselves financially. Because the majority of people, when they leave their house in the morning to go to a job, it's because they're trying to provide for their family. They're trying to provide for themselves. And so if I can steer you on a course that would potentially transform your life in a way that you would be doing better financially, and again, a millionaire is one step, but if you can just do better than where you are today, then I feel as though I would have achieved my goal of helping people in that way.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when it comes to our community and the positions that we see in our community, with no real, quote, leadership, whatever that means, there's just so many different mindsets. We talked before, and I was telling you, when I look out into today's youth, it just seems really hopeless. So when I see youth that are striving to become entrepreneurs, like I'm talking like 7-year-olds opening lemonade stands or creating brands or attending courses, I have a little bit of hope. But if we have not began to rescue our youth from all this calamity that is going on today, we just really don't have any future.
I 100% agree with that. I think part of the culture of our community, though, is that we don't necessarily value education as much as other things. And I think we also tend to look down on money itself. And I would say that because, there's a large portion of our demographic is very religious, attends church on a regular basis, sometimes multiple times a week. And in that environment, the pursuit of worldly riches is kind of seen as ungodly. And so, and then combine that with, there is this undercurrent in the community of the value of entertainers and athletes, which doesn't put us in the best position to build wealth in our community, because the majority of us can't be entertainers or athletes. And so I think Brother Robert said it earlier when he was speaking about diet and saying about making up your mind about what you want for your life. That's the first step, right? You have to make up in your mind, what kind of life do you want to live? We only get one chance at this thing. And so what story do you want your life to tell? And it's really about, having those internal conversations or dialogues and looking around your community. So just to give you a little bit of history about me, where my thinking started to change, is it started when I was very young. I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I told you I grew up in inner city New York. And so in that environment, it was just African Americans and maybe a few Hispanics here or there. But my neighborhood was in complete disarray. There was graffiti everywhere. People would urinate in the staircases. And it was like, as much as I was hearing about how people from other races were affecting our community, here I was living in an environment where people weren't even taking care of where they were living, and it had nothing to do with any other races or ethnicities. And then I also realized that hey, if I stayed in this environment, how far would I really be able to get in life? And so I had that kind of awakening experience, like I said, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, where it's just like, there has to be a different way or a better way to live than this. And so, granted, I was 8 years old. There was nothing I could do to change my life at that point, but it planted a seed that, hey, I have to work or do something different to avoid ending up in this same situation. And so, there's a lot of people, when you say you look around in the community and it's hopeless, for a good segment of the population, it may be because their mind has not been exposed or thinks about doing things in a different way. They're just kind of living or repeating patterns that they see. And that's very much human behavior, right? It's not a fault. It's not their fault. They just have negative role models. And the same thing happens when you have positive role models, right? How many times have you seen within a church where the grandfather was a pastor, now the father's the pastor, and now the son eventually becomes the pastor? There's just a certain legacy that's built based on what you get exposed to on a continual basis. And if you're exposed to negativity or underachievement or poor eating habits, these are the things that you just you inherit and then you pass on to the future generations.
Oh, absolutely. It is definitely patterned behavior. And some would call it generational curses. But then there's also something called generational blessings. So we have to make sure that we are exercising those generational blessings so that our future generations can move forward. Robert, what do you think?
I'm definitely in agreement with the brother in terms of everything that he said so far. But I just want him to keep on, going further along in the interview because, so far what I'm hearing is definitely on point, and I'm loving your story.
Yeah, so so let's go to the next point. So now as I'm going through my education, you start getting exposed to people from different backgrounds. And that is another point that Brother Robert made earlier. It's who you surround yourself with is what helps you achieve your goals or not. And so by, going to high school and then going to college and then going to medical school, you are experiencing people in a different way, people that you otherwise probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet or get to know. As much as we invest in our children or invest in our communities, when you meet someone of a different background, whether it be ethnicity or racial group, you have to also keep in mind that other people have been investing in them as well. So sometimes you can gain something from just interacting with them because they have experiences that you have not experienced. And that is one of the first lessons in my book is that you have to be teachable. Some people are not teachable. They feel as though they already know, they've heard something, they know it. But if you're not living it and there's no physical representation in your life that you understand what you know, then you really don't really know it to the fullest of the detail that you do, right? And so for me to say that, hey, I need to be teachable, I wasn't a millionaire. I don't come from a family of millionaires. So I had to humble myself to say, okay, what can I learn from people that have achieved more than I have? And sometimes those people may be younger than you, right? Or sometimes they may be from a different racial group than you are. And that's definitely true for us as African Americans. One of the stats that I just want to put out there is that the chances of you becoming a millionaire by retirement, this was an article that was posted last year in Bloomberg, a 2016 article. The chances of becoming a millionaire by retirement by racial group. So if you're Asian, you have a 1 in 4.5 chance of becoming a millionaire. If you're white, you have a 1 in 5.3 chance of becoming a millionaire. If you're Hispanic, you have a 1 in 43.5 chance of becoming a millionaire. And if you're black, you have a 1 in 52.6 chance of becoming a millionaire by retirement. So just think about that for a minute. As a black person, by retirement, you have a less than 2% chance of becoming a millionaire, but someone who's Asian or white has a 20 to 25% chance. That's a tenfold increase of what the chances are. And you can say, okay, it's institutionalized racism and all the things that are working against us. And a lot of that is true, but then you have to say, okay, what is it that I can do to change that pattern? So in that same article, they said, okay, what happens if you give someone an undergraduate degree, meaning that they went to college? And what are the chances of them becoming a millionaire? And this is by middle age now. And so for Asian people, college doesn't help. If you're Asian, your chances are 1 in 4.5. If you're white, your chances improve a little bit. It goes from 1 in 5 to 1 in 4.6. For Hispanics, the results dramatically improve. It went from 1 in 43 without a college degree to 1 in 14.7 with a college degree. And you see the same thing happen in the African American community. For black people, it was a 1 in 52 chance without a college degree. It becomes a 1 in 15 chance with a college degree. And so it shows that, again, it doesn't level the playing field, but it does show that getting a higher education increases your likelihood of becoming a millionaire. And why is that, right? It's not the college degree itself. It's that going to college expands your perspective. It expands the people that you're exposed to. It gets your creative juices flowing in a way that if you're not exposed to that, then you're not thinking in those ways. And I say college is a path, and I don't think it's the only path. I'm not saying everyone needs to go to college. What I am saying, though, is that college forces you to be exposed to new experiences, whereas if you don't go to school or you don't pursue some kind of job path that exposes you or grows your world beyond what it is, it lessens your chance of becoming a millionaire or becoming financially secure. Again, it's really about the peer group that you surround yourself with. So as I sit here and I talk, I'm not a millionaire by myself, knowing like I'm the only millionaire I know. I am part of a network of guys and ladies who are millionaires. That's how the system works. Whoever you spend your time with is who you're going to become more like. You know, if I had a chance to hang out with, Bill Gates or Oprah or Michael Jordan, well, I would assume or I would expect that my income would then start to grow to their level, because I'm now getting into the way that they see the world and the way that they make decisions and the opportunities that they pursue. But, I'm not at that level, so I know I'm not going to achieve that level of wealth. So at least not right now. And so it's just getting in that mindset as a business person, blacks in business, is that you have to realize that, okay, who are the successful business people out there? What is it that I can learn from them? Because a lot of these things are just skills that we just have not been exposed to. And it's not that we can't learn them, we just suffer from a lack of exposure. The other thing that we suffer from a lack of is that we have to diversify in some ways our customer base. One of the struggles is that, there are certain products or services where if you cater solely to African Americans, you can do well for yourself. But if you're in an industry or you have a product or service that is not going to just be ravenously consumed by African Americans, you have to be comfortable expanding beyond the demographic that you're most comfortable with. And that's something that I've had to do in my development. How do you go from inner city New York to where I am now? I've had to grow very comfortable associating with people that are very different than me, that look different than me, that have different interests than me, have different sexual orientations than me, different religious perspectives. You just realize that the world is made up of many different people. And if you're focused on becoming financially successful, you sometimes have to put away personal beliefs that you may have, because it's really about a greater goal of delivering a product or service. Again, I'm not telling you to compromise your values, but you have to pick and choose when is the time to stand up on a value versus saying, okay, that person is living their life, but they still can help me achieve my goal or my dream.
Wow. I got to get in here now. Man, you made some great points. One of the most profound things I heard you say was, I just shared this thing too, in reference to evidence of what we say we know. and that weighed heavy in my thinking when I heard you say that. Oh, you said something to the degree of what physical representation of do you have of what you say, And a lot of times, I hear a lot of, see a lot of people on Facebook claiming that they know a certain thing or claiming that they about this business entrepreneur life, but yet have absolutely zero evidence to bag up what they're saying. You see, and when you said that, I just flashed into my mind all these people that are out here trying to get money from people, trying to whatever, they're trying to teach these different business entities that they claim they know, and that's so true. When we say we are about something, well, how do you know that? And even in your case, I don't know who you are. I don't know you personally. All I hear is your story. Now, how do I know that you know what you're saying? You know it by your walk. I can recognize what you're saying by my 23 years of being an entrepreneur and not wavering with going to get a job. I didn't waver at one point at all about getting off this path of entrepreneurship to get a job. One of the things I said to myself was, if I start thinking like I need a job, then that means that I need to work overtime for myself. Because when we go get a job and you need more money, you're always asking for overtime. So I would take that same thinking and say, okay, if I'm out here 8 hours a day in these streets selling my goods, then I'm going to stay out here 12 hours a day. And I just made up in my mind, going back to the power of a made-up mind, I made up in my mind that that's what I was going to do and refuse to go and get a job. The most recent experience I had, bearing witness to that, is I was homeless. 2015, spent 30-some days in the backseat of a car. Sister brought me an application to General Motors. Most people are kicking down the employment line to get to General Motors or Chrysler, places like that. I sat in the car and looked at that application for 2 or 3 days straight and called my son and told him to come and get the application because that's the lifestyle that he's on the path of, and it's just not my lifestyle. And I went on here and waited it out and endured till my time was up in that part of my life. Now, going to the evidence of what we say we know. Coming out of that situation, I executed the knowledge of real estate, of buying real estate without dealing with the banks or the broker. This is a knowledge that was shared with me in 1998. My best friend, my mentor, my father-like figure shared that information with me and told me that I should never, ever rent another piece of property again. And that is where we are right now is the evidence of what I say I know. So when I heard you say that, brother, that just weighed so heavy on my mind. And I need to put your name, I need to attach your name to the post I just made on Facebook because I said exactly that. What is the physical evidence of what you say you believe? You got to have something to bag up what you say you think you know. And so
talk is cheap. Talk is cheap, and I think the reason that it is that a lot of people like to feel good or make themselves look good, but then when you look behind the scenes, they don't really have anything going on. And for me, I don't want to be someone who's fake. I want to be able to live a life that's authentic, and because then I can back it up. I can walk in confidence because I know I can back up what I say. I didn't come on here and saying I'm a billionaire, because I know I can't back that up. But I can speak to where I am. And the other thing too is that I don't want anyone who's listening to think, well, Paul's made it. No, that's not true. Paul is still in the fight. Paul is still hustling. Paul is still looking for opportunities because you can never rest on your laurels, right? There's a lot of people, like I said, I'm a doctor. There's a lot of people that get to a certain stage in life and they say, I've made X amount of money, or I got this degree. I've made it. I'm done. I shut it down, right? And they just kind of coast through the rest of life. Well, I'm a doctor. I work with other doctors. There's plenty of doctors that say, man, I made it to be a doctor. I've done everything I want to do with my life. I've achieved everything. I've never been that kind of person. You know, one of the things about my faith is that I feel as though there's certain talents that are in me that I have to develop and I have to grow, to that, not so much that I'm blessing myself. I do get direct and indirect blessings that way, but so that I can help others, right? The more valuable I make myself, the more valuable I become to others, right? When I became a doctor, to learn how to be a doctor, yes, I'm helping myself from the standpoint I generate an income that way. But at the same time, all the patients I've taken care of, and, you know, I've been a doctor for 15 years, you know, I've probably taken care of over 40,000 patients. And so all those lives that have crossed my path are people that I've been able to help because I had the experience and the knowledge and the skill to help them when they presented in front of me. Which is another thing I want to bring up, is that you might go through life, and depending on what your path that you've chosen, what you do for an occupation, you know, Brother Robert, you mentioned you're an entrepreneur. SiSi, you know, you're heavily into the radio and things. And so one of the things I've learned as I was taking care of those 40,000 people, I became a pretty good interviewer, right? You don't really think about it that way, but when you're listening to people's life story and you're bringing in and you're hearing their experiences and you take that time to build a connection with your patients, you're basically an interviewer, a host in an interviewer situation where you're taking in and you're absorbing all these people's lives and experiences. And, you know, and you're not realizing that you're getting so much in return. You know, you're thinking you're there to take care of them. But if you actually step back for a moment, they're actually teaching you about what's going on in the world. And what I love about the emergency room is that it's the most unfiltered place in the world, or most unfiltered place in life. You know, a lot of times people are always on their P's and Q's. They act a certain way when they're in church, on their job, you know, on vacation. They're going to act a particular way. But when you're in the emergency room, there is no sense of trying to keep up any kind of front. It is what it is. You're sick, you're injured, whatever. That's as real as you can get in the moment. And so It's that authenticity in the moment that you can use to build your experiences upon, or what I've used to build my experiences on, such that, you know, I can talk to people relatively easily because I see people, I see the humanity in people. You know, on the job, you may not see it. You know, in school, you may not see it. In church, you may not necessarily see it all the time. But in that moment when someone is vulnerable because they're sick, they're scared, you know, a mother is, you know, worried about their child, you see humanity for what it is. And so you're then able to relate to people in a different way. And you have more, at least for me, and I don't think this applies necessarily to every single doctor, but you have more of a servant attitude. It's like, what can I do to make your life a little bit better in this moment?
That's true. I totally agree with that. You know, I know that I'm many things. And one of those things is a caregiver. And so I like to analyze the care that the elder person has received. And I was just talking to Robert about this yesterday because I interviewed a potential client. And I mean, the son had some serious horror stories about what his mother, who is 90 years old, was taking these caregivers through. And I was able to step back and analyze the situation. One, the son, who was, you know, basically the main facilitator of everything, he was hiring just anybody. He was not hiring people who necessarily had skill. Why? Because money was a factor. And we know that a lot of times you get what you pay for. Now, he was talking about all these different things his mother was doing to these people, but I was able to step back and say, wait a minute. She's scared. She's alone. She's totally not getting what she needs. And the situation is looking like she's a villain, when in fact she's the person that needs the most nurturing and care at this point in her life, but nobody is able to really see that. But as a caregiver, when you talk with other caregivers, the ones that are really qualified, it just solidifies that when you do the work, you definitely receive from the person that is needing the care, because they are a human being and you are a human being. And if you're doing what needs to be done, you receive from that other human being just as they need to receive from you. And it is so important that we do know that, because a lot of times, like you were talking about, basically people have these masks on. They're walking around every day with the facade of happiness or the facade of wealth or the facade of something. But when you get down to these different types of life-altering situations, you really see who the people are. And we have to remember that, we are all people, we all have flaws, and we are all here to help one another. But if you're just continuously just walking with this mask on, I mean, how do we really, really understand how to help one another?
And then you mentioned also, too, a key word about the people that come into the emergency room, which is vulnerability. And, I call it transparency, because it's pretty much the same thing. Being transparent or being vulnerable, it's really a tough thing for people to become, because they're worried about what somebody is going to think about them. So
yeah, exactly.
That thing there, when you in those situations, life-threatening situations, you're not worried about that moment. At that moment, you're not worried about what nobody think about you. You're going to say some things to the doctor that you don't care what he think about you. Just save my life. And that's kind of the attitude or approach that can really help us out when we're quote unquote healthy in our thinking, I guess, because we're not really healthy in our thinking, but when we're not in life-giving or life-taking situations, if we can adopt that vulnerability state or that transparent state, then that helps us to grow tremendously. And a lot of times we want to throw the veil over us to protect us from what people think about us. And one of my things personally, I don't care that you feel a certain way about me. I don't care. I know my life has purpose. If we only knew our life has purpose, our life is like a book. You only live once, as you said earlier, and allow people around you to learn from your life. Your mistakes are very valuable to other people, and we just don't understand that. And I'm really thanking you. I want to thank you for the interview and continue on, because you're really on point with everything that I've been hearing you say so far. So I thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Brother Robert. One of the things I wanted to add, too, is that, being in the ER, you see people, you see a lot of death and sudden death, and that creates perspective as well. And it's not just adults dying at the end of life. Little children die all the time, and it's very sad, and you see families broken down in the moment and the grief. And so it then creates that perspective, or created the perspective in my mind of, okay, life can end at any time. If a little child can just be taken out any moment, I can be gone any time. And so what are the things that are most valuable to me? And so one of the things, and I mentioned this in the book, is that I kind of live my life backwards, in the sense of when I make choices, I ask myself, is this going to matter to me on my deathbed? And so no one ever says I want to work more when they're on their deathbed. No one says, oh, I wish I had that new car. I wish I had a bigger house. And based on what I've seen people, in the moment when they're, about to, go over to the other side, none of that matters to them. They care most about, their family. And so when you realize that, a lot of the things we chase after, they're not, they don't have lasting value in that moment when, everything is going to come to an end. And so it just realizes that, okay, if I'm going to put this time and effort in, yes, I became a millionaire, but it wasn't to be buying cars and houses, and I'm not poo-pooing anyone that wants to do that. Everyone has a different value system. So just I want to be clear about that. If you want to make plenty of money because you want to have X type of car, X type of house, everyone has those type of dreams. There's nothing wrong with that. Go after that. But I'm just telling you, for me, life, I wanted my life to have something deeper, some deeper purpose, is what Brother Robert said. And, I found that my purpose is making lives better. How can I improve the lives of people around me? And so, that was the reason behind writing this book, because I was going through circumstances in my life that, hey, maybe I can provide guidance to someone else such that they can learn from my experience. One of the things I want to mention to your listeners is that a lot of people may have turned off or tuned out because they heard I'm a doctor. And so they say, oh, he's a doctor, of course he's a millionaire. Well, that's not true. The majority of doctors are not millionaires. Yes, we make higher income relative than most people, but it's nowhere, anywhere where people were living that high on the hog that you'd be like, yeah, of course he's a millionaire. And the reason I say that is because when I look around the world and you look at who are the people that are wealthy, it's never, the only doctor I can think of that's famous is like Dr. Oz, right? So it's not that every doctor out there is just rolling in it. In fact, we're just kind of well-paid working class people. And so one of the things that most doctors don't understand is that you're just a highly paid employee, but you need to develop some entrepreneurial skills. And so no matter what your path in life, your vocation in life, you have to think about it from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I'll give you an example, because a lot of people feel like teachers don't make a lot of money. And relatively speaking, they don't. But you have to think about, okay, I'm a teacher. My skill is I know how to educate. Okay, do I know how to create a product such that it can go out into the market and it be well received and touch multiple lives beyond the people in my classroom? Because if you only affect people in your classroom, you're not going to really be able to achieve any significant financial wealth. But if you apply that teaching mindset to the world and say, how can I touch more people? Parents are going to invest anything for their children. And so if you can create a platform such that it's interesting, or it's not necessarily interesting, but it achieves results for children, that's an opportunity for you to build wealth. An example is maybe 7 years ago, they used to have these infomercials on for Your Baby Can Read, right? Mm-hmm. The science behind it was proven that it doesn't work, right? But it doesn't matter. It's one of those things where people felt as though the product was valuable enough. People want their kids to have a head start. This person, I don't even know if he was an educator that created the platform, sold millions of dollars of this program, all based on the fact that he was trying to educate children. Now, if you were able to sell a platform like that and not, studies have shown it's not necessarily all that effective, what can you create that's actually effective and has staying power that you can now go on to pass on to multitudes of children, and not just in America, in other countries where you can translate it into other languages and do that? I don't have the answer for that because that's not the path that I've traveled. That's not the assignment I've been given. But for someone who's an educator, someone who's passionate about reaching children or reaching the next generation and has some entrepreneurial drive to them, can come up with that creative solution. It's just a way of thinking about the world in a different way, rather than I'm just a teacher or I'm just a salesperson. Well, okay, if you're a salesperson, you know how to move product, right? You know how the details of your product, you know how to inform your customer, right? But not only that, not only do you know the details of your product and the details of your service, but you also know, if you're a good salesperson, you know how to connect with your customer. You start to get inside their head, what's important to them, right? That's a skill that you can take, and it's portable for you to say, okay, what else can I sell? Well, can I sell myself? Can I sell another product? Can I sell another service? Can I create a business that needs to be sold? Because if you know how to sell, that skill is transferable to multiple industries, multiple service lines. But you just have to start thinking about yourself in a different way. Everyone has experiences in life that they can build upon, but they don't look for the deeper meaning or the deeper lessons that come from that experience. You know, everything that even us being on the radio today, this is not my first time having to talk and do an interview, right? Mm-hmm. If it was my first time, I'd be real nervous. I'm like, okay, I don't know what they're going to ask me, what I'm going to say. But, you know, I've been interviewed. I've been asked questions. I've had to interview people before. So all of those experiences is what I draw upon to have this conversation with you today. But a lot of people don't look at that. Hey, and the funny thing is, let's go back to my childhood. This probably starts back, you know, if anyone's ever been to church, when you're a little kid and they have these little holiday shows or Mother's Day programs, and they always used to give us this recitation that you had to memorize. And you had to stand up in front of all these people and, you know, give this recitation. And I remember being so nervous, and I was like, I don't want to do this. But those little experiences as a child, as I built upon them now that I'm an adult, standing in front of people and giving public speaking, you know, those are all the little things that you learn, little experiences that you're not seeing the deeper meaning at the time. That, hey, if I do this now at 8 and I do it again at 9, I do it at 10, and now I'm in college and doing it, I'm in medical school doing it, now I'm a doctor doing it, you now have that lifetime of experiences that you have that strong foundation that you can stand upon, and you have that confidence to say, I know I can do this. I've done it several times. There's nothing to worry about. I got this. And so but that confidence only comes from experience. And what that means is that it's not that everything goes well all the time. There's plenty of times I've gotten up and I wanted to say something, and I was like, that didn't come out the way that I wanted it to come out. Oh, I didn't do a good job. Oh, I think I may have said too much, or I stuttered here, or I tripped up over that word. Those things are going to happen, but with experience, you start to become a little bit more fluid in your speech, fluid in your thought, and you can just get into the flow of whatever it is you're trying to say. And so what I want the listeners to know is that you just have to start where you are. You have to identify, okay, these are the things I'm good at. These are the things I need some additional work at. I'm not one of these people that says, well, you can be anything you want to be. That's a bunch of crap to me. Everyone has a certain skill set and talent that has value, but you have to develop it and nurture it, and you never know where it's going to take you. Like I said, I would never know that 5 years ago that I would be writing a book, that I would be talking to you on a podcast today. You know, I never thought about those things, but when the opportunity presents itself, you have to then say, hey, this is my time. And so, you know, and I think Oprah has this formula that she's repeated: when opportunity meets preparation, it leads to success, right? I've been prepared. I've been preparing myself all this time. Today, you've provided me an opportunity to say what I want to say to your listeners. I'm hoping that something I say resonates with a listener, that it propels them to change their life in some way financially. Again, it's not so much about selling books, right? Because for me, a book can only help someone so much, because there's no way I can put everything on the pages in a book to help someone on a granular level. You know, it's no different than if, as a doctor, if you tell me you're having chest pain and I just write down, okay, these are all the things it could be. It doesn't help you, because I haven't gotten enough of your story to help guide you in the right direction. And so my book is just an opportunity for you to open your mind, to start thinking about things differently. But I would definitely need to spend time talking to people one-on-one, so I understand where they are, what's really important to them, what they're passionate about. And, you know, my target audience for the book, because I want to do a book tour, is to reach out to college students, because I feel as though at least they made up in their mind that, okay, I'm interested in pursuing higher education. And so they may be more open to listening to some of the things, some of the experience that I have. The other group I'm interested in talking to are entrepreneurs, people who do not necessarily want to go to college, but they at least have that vision in their life that they want better for themselves. They want to grow. They want to develop. You know, that's the best way I feel I can have my impact. But like I said, the book is just a way for me to open the door to start a conversation. But the conversation is just a conversation starter. It's by no means an end all be all, the answer to everything.
Right. Absolutely.
So I want to ask this question for the listening audience. What would you suggest, principle-wise, in terms of entrepreneurship? If you had to tell the listening audience two things in reference to having some success at being an entrepreneur, principle-wise, what would be two principles that you would say you must do this? You must be able to do this in order to achieve some success at being an entrepreneur. Give me a couple of things that you would say that are at the top of the list that a person must be able to do to be able to have at least some success at becoming an entrepreneur.
I think the first thing you need to do is acquire some sort of technical skill. And what I mean by that is that you have to be able to do something independent of someone else, meaning you don't need to ask for help. So in my case, I am a physician, right? My technical skill is I know how to suture someone. I know how to read an EKG. I know how to read a chest X-ray. I know what antibiotics to prescribe. I know these things. These are my technical skills. They cannot be taken away from me. If you take me from here in America and you throw me in the middle of somewhere in the Middle East, that knowledge and those skills are still mine. So as an entrepreneur, you first need to have technical skills. And so what does that mean? If I'm a radio host, then I need to know that not only do I know how to conduct my own program and do my own interviews, I also know how to produce my own show. I also know how to go get my own sponsors. I know how to do advertising. I know how to manage my website and my social media. These are all technical skills, regardless if you move on from that radio position, that you can now take with you somewhere else, right? If I'm a salesperson, as I mentioned earlier, right, I understand that I know how to memorize details of products. I know that I understand what the competitor products are in relation to mine. I know how to not only know the details of my product, but I know how to present those on the fly. I know how to respond to questions about my product. Those are all technical skills. If I'm a teacher, I know how to prepare a lesson plan. I know how to research what new material needs to be presented to my students. I know how to research the new guidelines that the state may put on me to meet certain requirements for my students. I know how to stand in front of a classroom. I know how to, write on a board or use a smart board or do all those things. Those are all technical skills. I know how to use PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook. I know how to use all those software platforms. Those are my technical skills. Those will go with me wherever. So as an entrepreneur, you need to identify what is it that I'm good at. Excuse me. What is it that I'm good at that I can, that I know is mine and no one can take from me? The thing after that is, okay, what are my soft skills, right? You may be very good from a technical standpoint. I know how to suture, I know how to do all these things. But now your soft skills is, how do you relate to other people? How do you connect to other people? How do you socialize with other people? That is not something that is as technical, and because it's a soft skill is what I call it, is that it's going to change based on the environment that you're in. There's some people, I'm naturally, believe it or not, it may not sound like it, I'm more introverted in person than I sound probably on the broadcast. But I become more extroverted when I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, like what I'm talking about today. And I think that's communicated through in my voice. I'm also more extroverted when I'm around people that I'm more comfortable with. But if I'm going into an environment where I'm new and I don't know anyone, I tend to be a little bit more reserved and a little bit more quiet. I'm not working the room, getting names and all that stuff. And so you just have to realize your soft skills are still yours, but they don't stand up necessarily the same in every environment. And so when I say having soft skills, you need to be able to connect to people, right? And you have to find a way to do that. You have to know who your audience is. And when I say audience may be just one other person, where you're just saying, okay, what is it that you and I have in common? You're trying to find commonality. You're trying to find a reason why people want to work with you, because at the end of the day, an entrepreneur is about starting business, right? And the goal of business for me, I never BS myself when it comes to this. The goal of business for me is to make money. If you're not making money, it's a hobby, right? If you're not serious about making money, it's a hobby. And so for me, it's like, and so I've started businesses before that have not taken off, and I've had to shut them down because I'm not wasting time and effort behind something that's not generating a profit for me. If there's no value in it, and the value is not determined by me. Obviously, I thought the business was valuable. I invested in it. I worked it. I thought the market would reward it. But it's the world that tells you whether or not your product is valuable or not, if they want to consume it. And it's not necessarily the product itself. It could be the way that you're trying to deliver it, the way you're trying to package it. It may be you. You may not be the right person. One of the things that I've learned being an African American, especially a physician, when people walk into the ER, and sometimes I walk in the room, they don't expect that I'm the doctor. Like, they might say I'm the nurse. They may say I'm the respiratory therapist. They may say, something else other than the doctor. And so you just have to realize that sometimes some doors will not open to you. We still live in the real world. I'm not telling you, as much as people like to say things are post-racial or whatever, I still live in the real world. I still get stopped by police on occasion. I'm part of that real world experience. And so you have to just realize that people's minds and the way they see the world is very conditioned, and it's very difficult for you to change that. So sometimes I've had to alter my approach, knowing that as the Black guy, I'm not going to be received necessarily that well. One of the reasons I went into emergency medicine is that I didn't want to have to deal with any discrimination from a patient from the standpoint, I don't want this person to be my doctor. I have experienced that even in the ER, but the reason I tried to, the way I neutralize that is that when you go to the ER, you don't have a choice of who your doctor is, right? And so, it's in those ways you make choices where it's like, I want to take care of people, and I don't want my race to be a factor in them deciding whether or not they're going to come to me. And so I'm going to go in a place where I neutralize race by, working in the ER. That was a conscious decision that I made. The same thing, when I go into business, I have business partners. There's plenty of times that I'll let my non-Black business partners lead because I understand that is how people are conditioned. It doesn't mean that I'm not an owner. It doesn't mean that I'm playing some kind of inferior card. I just understand that, to me, racism is a bit of a game and the rules never change, right? People's perspectives don't change that much. And as long as you understand the rules, you're then able to kind of navigate them to the best of your ability. And so these are just some of the things that I've learned, along my journey.
Now, I got to ask you, I've been silent for a minute, but I got to ask you, Doctor, now, who are your mentors?
Yeah, that's a very powerful and a very good question. So being that, I think I have great mentors within the African-American community, from my church, who taught me to be a good man and taught me good values and taught me how to live a life that's upstanding. But all those things don't result in any kind of additional wealth for me or anyone in our community. And so what I had to do is that I realized that I had to read, I had to expand my environment. So my mentors are very much some best-selling authors that I have never met. I don't know if I would like them if I met them. I don't know if they would like me. But, the one thing that I realize about people, they may not take a moment to talk to you, but they'll tell you their whole story in a book. And so when you take time to read people's stories, those are the people who have essentially become my mentors. I probably have over 100 books in my library, and I've read probably, 80% of them. And my books are I don't read any fiction. They're all nonfiction. Just to give you an example, Charlemagne the God wrote a book called Black Privilege that I think came out within the last couple of months. I read that. It's people who are out there who are living a life and have become successful, and you just read things in their story and you pick up and you say, okay, this is something I can apply to myself. I have no, I never had any aspirations to be on the radio or anything like that. But to listen to someone who traveled his path, seeing where he came from, the achievement he had, the setbacks, the achievement, the setbacks, you just learn from that story. And especially for someone like, he's a perfect example of someone who didn't complete college, but yet has become a successful radio host in New York City. I consider that to be very impressive. And that's the great thing about America. There's still opportunities out there. I do concede that it is harder for us because the part of it, the reason it's harder for us is because there is not that focus on wealth generation in our community. Right? I could roll out of if I wanted to be a pastor or a preacher, I could roll out of my bed and have done that because that is very emphasized in our community. And I would have gotten a lot of support for that. But that is not the path that I feel, God was taking me down. I feel my path is a little bit different. And I wanted, like I said, I want to improve people's lives while they're here. The preachers, they worry about the afterlife. Okay, let them worry about that. That's not my mission. My mission is to improve people's lives while they're here on this earth. Because, the average African-American lives 75, 76 years. That's a long time. And, I want us to do is the best that we all can. And, my book is not just written for African-Americans. It's written for everybody. But, I do have a passion for African-Americans being one. And like I said, right now, without a college education, we have a less than 2% chance of achieving millionaire status.
Wow. Well, that's very important information that you just gave us. I just looked up the book for Charlemagne the God because that definitely resonates with me because I didn't know he didn't finish college, and I do know that he is a successful radio host. So I, like you, do not believe in reading fiction. I never found any purpose in that. Of course, you should read for enjoyment, but I like to marry the two. I like nonfiction and things, those two things that are nonfiction and just great, enjoyable reading. They're just the same for me, one and the same. Romance novels and all that kind of stuff, that's just a waste of time. So
yeah, I mean, I feel that's for me. That's for people who have leisure time.
Right.
As a community, we're so far behind. I don't have time for that kind of leisure. Would I love it? Maybe. But for me, at least the talents and the desires that God has put in my heart, I feel as though my skills are better used in a different capacity. And I want to empower people to improve their lives. And it really starts with believing themselves. If I could do it, listen, I'm nobody different than anyone else. I grew up, like I said, single mom, inner city, roach infested, graffiti infested, urine infested inner city building, and I came out of that to where I am now. And all I did was make a decision in my mind. As Brother Rob said, I made up my mind that this is not the life that I wanted for myself. And so by just making that declaration, I want a different life for myself, you then start seeking out the path for you to have a different life. And it's as simple as, my cousin did this, and look at where he or she ended up. I'm not going down that path. I'm going to do something else.
Right. Now, let me ask you also, now, do you have children?
Oh, yeah, I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
And I'm
now,
married
what
as
is
well.
Okay. Now, what is the pathway that you and your wife has set forth for your children? Seeing the upbringing and the start that you had, it sounds like it wasn't horrible because you had a good mother. But what jump start have you given your daughters, knowing what you know today and how important it is for them to become entrepreneurs?
It's one of those things that I'm hoping through exposure. My daughters are 10 and 8 years old. I'm hoping through exposure that, just by seeing some of the things that Daddy does, that they are learning, I guess, through osmosis. Because I think I have the same challenge that every parent has. No kid ever wants to listen to their parents, right? And so because they don't think their parents really know anything. So, what we do in our home is that during the school year, I don't let them watch TV during the week. The week is about school. Daddy goes to work, school is your work, and you kind of do that stuff. Even here during the summer, I still make them do an hour of reading and math a day, just for them. Again, I'm really just trying to help build up their technical skills. They don't have the maturity of mind, and at least right now are not showing the entrepreneurial drive that that I had when I was younger. And that's okay. I'm not trying to make my children into entrepreneurs or have them go down a path that, I think is best. I think, God put something in everyone, and I have to let him reveal that to them in his own time, rather than me trying to force feed them down a particular path. Becoming a doctor, everything I did in my lifetime was enjoyable to me. It wasn't like anyone forced me to do anything. And I think in retrospect, my mother probably wanted me to become a pastor or a preacher of some sort. That wasn't for me. And so, in some ways, I feel like what I'm doing now is my version of preaching. But it's more on a practical thing. I never felt comfortable promising someone what an afterlife would be like. But I can tell you right now, if you make this choice, you can improve your life today. And so, getting back to my daughters, one of the things I say in my house all the time, if I see them watching TV or if they're on the iPad, I said, you're turning your brain to mush. You got to turn that off. And I'm just hoping that little things like that stick with them, as they get older, when they're in high school or college. And like, yeah, my daddy always said, watching TV turns your brain to mush. But those are the little things that we do. I think I grew up in an environment where I was trying to get out. I was like, this is not the way I want to live growing up. I think, one of the downsides of my, financial success is that I'm raising my daughters in an environment that's a lot more comfortable to them, where they don't really want for anything. And so some of that entrepreneurial desire, some of that hustle is really born out of struggle, right? If you don't have struggle, you are not really trying to overcome anything. And so in some ways I'm facilitating them, or I'm handicapping them from developing that entrepreneurial spirit. And it's very hard to do, because you like I said, you're not trying to bring hardship onto your kids, but you do need to create an environment where they have to realize that they have to fend for themselves. And I mentioned that in the book as well, right? Is that hustling spirit, you never can lose it. And that hustling spirit comes from my youth. Like, even though I've achieved success, I've always said, okay, this is what I've done now, but that's yesterday's success. What can I do tomorrow? And so, my book and speaking to you, and hopefully having an opportunity to go on, like I said, a college speaking tour, or being on other platforms, will give me that opportunity to, answer that question, what else can I do?
Right. Absolutely. Very valuable information. Brother Robert, do you have any last questions for the doctor here?
No questions. I just want to thank you, brother, for sharing. Very, very spiritual, as well as entrepreneurial. I never like to divide the two of those, because entrepreneurship to me is a spiritual journey. It really pulls out of you some things that a lot of people, faith-based people and groups talk about. Entrepreneurship, for me, actually makes you walk that walk. So I really felt the presence of God in what you had to deliver, brother, because it was just so, refreshing to hear it. Even though I say it, and I know others that say it, but when you hear it from other people and you articulated it very well, I'm so thankful this morning that this is how I'm starting my day. So thank you again for coming on the show, brother.
Well, no, I thank you for having me on. And, that was always my hope, is that I wanted to inspire my listeners, or your listeners, inspire you. And, if you look at what the definition, the meaning of the word inspire, it means to breathe life into. Right. And so what I'm hoping is that when you listen to what I've said today, that I'm breathing life into your dreams, into your goals, into your vision, that I'm breathing life into your listeners' dreams, goals, and visions, because that's what creates the energy. That's what creates the fire that burns, that drives you for every decision that you do every day. It's that fire that's alive inside you. I just want to add one little disclaimer about my book, is that there is some profanity in there, and I don't want anyone that may be opposed to that or offended by that. And the only reason it's in there is that it's not that I use profanity in my daily walk, but there's a lot of internal conversations that we have with ourselves, and occasionally we may cuss in our mind, even though we don't cuss out loud. And so I just want the readers to know that this is not something where I'm just being vulgar for vulgar sake. These are real conversations I've had with myself to be able to overcome struggles, overcome negative people in my life, overcome negative situations. And so I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we definitely thank you for that disclaimer, but, we all cuss in our minds if we don't cuss for real, seriously, because a lot of people are here to stub our toes, and we have something to say about it. So definitely. Now, what I wanted to find out is if people wanted to reach out to you or get the book or more information on the book, how would they do that?
You can email me at millionaireblackguy@gmail.com.
Okay, millionaireblackguy@gmail.com. Well, we definitely thank you for joining us today and spending this time with us. It was quite refreshing. You, as an ER physician, you have definitely resuscitated our businesses this morning. We appreciate that. And please join us on Facebook. If you are on Facebook, our page is called BIB Radio, which stands for Blacks in Business Radio. And come back anytime to give our listening audience more of what you have to deliver. Okay?
Definitely. And my book comes out in October, and what I want to do is I'll give copies away to listeners. And so I'll come back on closer towards when the book launches. That way I can deliver those books to the listeners.
Sounds excellent. Thank you so much, and have a blessed rest of the day, okay?
You both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everyone. That was Dr. Paul Allen. That was very inspirational this morning. I just want to encourage everyone, you have to take these principles into consideration that were mentioned here. I mean, we are all living this life together. You've been built on a certain foundation, but sometimes you have to segue from that in order to achieve. Well, you do have to segue from that in order to achieve what your true calling is, especially in being an entrepreneur. The doctor was able to give, examples of his life. He started out really rough. He had a mom. She was a single mom. And because she was a nurse, that inspired him to be a doctor. And he was able to actually utilize his mom's ceiling as his floor and take off, which is what we should be doing. All of us should be doing, whether it be your maternal parents or, people that you call parents or whatever. Wherever their ceiling is, whatever they have taught you, you should be able to take off from that moment and just do greater things. So what do you think about that, Robert?
No, that's for sure. Definitely, your experience. If you can recognize that's definitely a blessing when you can recognize early on something that's just satisfying to you. At 8 years old, I was trying to reflect on my life and see if I could honestly recognize. And I remember I wasn't exactly 8, but I was just a little bit older when I was living with my grandmother. And I told her, I said that, I would either be a politician or a minister. And the other thing I told her was that she would never die in the old folks' home. And, in the last 7 years of her life, she actually lived with me. And so the point is, it's a blessing And most of us, when put in the right environment, we can see things differently or clearer when put in the right environment. And when you can recognize that, that is truly a blessing, you know. So I definitely, you know, I appreciate this radio show. Was would have to be, I would say, one of my favorite interviews here, because it really goes deeper than just the entrepreneurship part of it. It was more spiritual, but again, I say for me, entrepreneurship is very spiritual. So,
right.
Really
to actually be able to do something for yourself, it is spiritual, because nobody likes to be dependent. You know, people have gotten used to being dependent, whether it be the system, you know, government assistance, or a job. You know, people have gotten used to being dependent, and it's not a good thing, you know. But us on this radio program, we're able to help people get off of that mental plantation. Now, what we're going to do right now is take a little break for the last half hour of the show, because we've got 30 minutes left. But let's just take a break. You're listening to Blacks in Business Radio. We're here every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Black Talk Radio Network. Please support this network and everything that we're doing here. But we're going to take a commercial break here, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Thank you for joining us again. Last half hour of Blacks in Business Radio. We just had a wonderful interview with Dr. Paul Allen. Now, he said that he kind of downplays the doctor thing because people think, okay, you know, because he's a millionaire. Well, he must be a millionaire because he's a doctor. I like that he really explained that information, because I know when I look at my doctor, I know she's a doctor and she's doing well. But the fact that, and maybe I'm wrong, but the fact that she doesn't have her own practice, that she's in with a network, you know, that kind of talks about that dependence that I was thinking about. You know, if I was a doctor, if I was an attorney or anything like that, I think I'd be working toward my own independence. Because, again, we are set up in this life to just be so dependent on things. We do have to depend on others to make things happen, but I mean, you have to establish your own independence so that you can, I mean, there's a sense of freedom there versus just being linked to a network or linked to some sort of check that's just coming in, you know, from the government or, you know, those type of things. So, I mean, really, I just really like the information that he gave us today.
Yeah, he's very honest about it, you know. I mean, just to clear up that misconception that doctors are, you know, when you see a doctor, you're seeing a financially wealthy individual, or perhaps even your idea may be they making millions. No, he had no shame in saying that they're just a well-paid employee.
Right.
And
right.
It's that kind of honesty that I appreciate personally. I just appreciate that type of honesty coming from somebody who in the employment world on that level that he's on can identify and be open and very transparent about that. You know, that's golden.
Yeah, somebody that actually has gone to school, and they've gone to school extensively, actually able to say to you, you know, they're not so disconnected thinking that they're up here and you're over there. Actually saying, hey, you know, maybe that's not the pathway for everybody. And then he even gave the mention of the book by Charlamagne the God, you know, and I did look that book up. Let's see. It's called Black Privilege. Opportunity comes to those who create it. Now, I'm not in love with Charlamagne the God. I do listen to him on the Breakfast Club at times, but, you know, like Dr. Paul was saying to us, when you're really striving to be who you need to be, sometimes you're in uncomfortable environments, or you have to get around people who are not like you. I'm really paraphrasing, but that is true. When you're selling a product or a service, that could be your business death or suicide if you're only going to cater to certain groups of people. If you're only going to offer these certain products, you have to be broad at times and be able to offer your product to everyone. And this book, I'm definitely looking at it now. It says it's Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It. There's an ebook, and I guess, going to promote it here. It's an ebook, and it's $2.99. Let's see here, and the description says, wait a minute. Okay. So it's talking about how you can purchase the book, but then it says, Charlamagne the God, the self-proclaimed Prince of Pissing People Off, co-host of Power 105.1, The Breakfast Club, and Hip Hop Howard Stern, shares his unlikely success story as well as how embracing one's truths is a fundamental key to success and happiness. In his new book, Charlamagne the God presents his comic, often controversial, and always brutally honest insights on how living an authentic life is the quickest path to success, beginning with his journey from the small town of Moncks Corner, South Carolina, to his headline-grabbing interviews with celebrities like Justin Bieber, Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, Kanye West, and Hillary Clinton. He shares how he turned his troubled early life around by owning his many mistakes and refusing to give up on his dreams, even after his controversial opinions got him fired from several on-air jobs. Combining his own story with bold advice and his signature commitment to honesty at all costs, Charlamagne hopes this book will give others the confidence to live their own truths. Well, that definitely sounds like a winner. Definitely interested in that. And, of course, they have many other books that they want to recommend, but I am not signing up for that ebook thing again because I always forget to turn it off, and then they're billing my account for $14.99. And they're doing that to you, Robert, too, because I looked at your stuff. You need to turn that off.
Right.
Yes, they're doing that. But anyway, yeah, definitely looking into that. We all need to be inspired by nonfiction books. We really need to do that. And he talked about that too. As I said, I'm not into romance novels or that type of silly stuff. I think that's a form of escapism for people, and you can probably balance it. But for me, I don't like that. I really don't like that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely interested in getting this book. I also appreciated what he said when I asked him about his mentors. Obviously, his mentors are books, because he said he reads many books that are nonfiction and about business. So that's really, really good. Yeah, I just really enjoyed that interview. Well, let's see. We have got some minutes left here, but Robert, there's a trade show coming up, and I wanted you to be able to talk about that. For those who are new, like this may be their first time listening, and this show is podcasted and it goes round and round. I think we should talk about trade shows a little bit, what they entail and who should be there. And again, like I said, the one coming up. So what is a trade show?
Well, a trade show basically is an event where manufacturers and representatives of those manufacturing companies gather, mainly in big places like Las Vegas, New York, Texas, to represent to entrepreneurs and buyers for large companies like Macy's and Sam's Club and this and other.
You're sounding a little far away. Are you far away?
I think I know why. Yeah, is that better?
That's way better. Okay, so let's hear it again. Trade shows are
gatherings where manufacturers and representatives of manufacturers come to convention centers in places like Las Vegas, Dallas, New York, Atlanta, to represent their products to entrepreneurs and buyers for companies like Macy's and Sam's Clubs. Not open to the public. It's only open to business owners and buyers and people with e-stores and stuff like that. But this is where you get the direct pricing, sourcing from the manufacturer or that representative of that manufacturing company to be able to buy their products and put it in your store, sell to the public. So and the reason why this is very important is because you absolutely will be way ahead of the market or the industry when you deal directly with these type of venues, because now you get the latest trend ahead of maybe stores in your city. Okay, if there are stores in your city that are based that are in the market that you're in, and they're not going to these trade shows and you are, then that allows you to be in the lead, because now you have new products that nobody else has in the environment that now these people are, if you use Facebook to market your stuff, people can see that you have this product. Other people that don't have the product won't get that attention, and they'll want to shop with you to get that product. You know, it could be the latest iPhone or the latest whatever. As long as you have it first, and being first really helps in business, to be the first person to have the product, to be the first person to get that product at the best price. That always helps you win in business. So this is why it's so important to go to trade shows, networking. You want to get to know different people in different industries or different manufacturers, so that perhaps maybe it sparks new ideas, selling information, those type of things. All that comes out of attending trade shows, because the entrepreneur is always looking for ways to make money. So it inspires creative thinking when you go to these trade shows. And you SiSi, you've been to the trade show, and I've watched you perform, and I'm sure you can verify what I'm saying in reference to it inspires creative thinking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, and you like to deal with products. I mean, some people, I don't really know how this could be, but they're just entrepreneurs behind the laptop or whatever. But if you like products, and if you like shopping, and you like people, the trade show is all of that and then some. I mean, my goodness, this thing, I went for the first time. This thing was crazy. I mean, it just totally blew my mind. Just being in that environment with other business people that are just like you know, they want the best products. They want the latest and the greatest to be able to offer their customers. I mean, you just are totally winning with the networking and the shopping together, and the pricing, because you're getting things at the greatest wholesale price there is. I mean, like, we shop at these wholesale places, but you know, going to the trade show, you're going to get the best price possible. And, you know, what I learned from Brother Robert is, like, there's great respect for you in these wholesale places if they know that you go to trade shows, because they know that you're operating on a whole nother business level. You're not just out here just trying to get what you can get. You're actually wanting to be at the top of the game, and those people recognize that. And it's funny, because when we went, we actually saw some of the people at one of the wholesale houses that we frequent, and they were like, hey, you know, and just really excited to see us there. And I think a lot of people get excited, like, seeing us together, because it's like, wow, there's a team right there, you know. So I would advise that, you know, if you have not been to a trade show, and you've been listening to this program and you're still putting it off, I suggest that you get in contact with us so that we can kind of help you with that path to go ahead and go, because you can't operate out of fear and expect that, you're going to be able to move forward. You got to get your ticket. You got to register. You got to get your hotel accommodations. You don't have to get a car, but you can Uber. But I would suggest that you reach out to us so that we can help you put that together, because we totally will do that. Yeah. I mean, so let's go over some important things for the trade show. Like, I'm so glad you told me about the comfortable shoes. I can't imagine having gone to the trade show trying to be in some cute heels. Talk about that, please. Lord have mercy. I can't imagine.
I learned the hard way. When I went to the trade show, there was no briefing on how to attend the trade show. So I got me some dress shoes, and no comfort shoes, just dress shoes, look good shoes. And man, did I suffer behind that. I mean, 30 days later, my feet were still recovering. And I vowed to myself at that point in time, I mean, this is my very first show. And I'm telling you, my feet were hollering. So I said at that time, okay, take note of all these things that, are very important that people would not even consider, because you don't know what you're in for. So ever since then, I've always told people one of the main things I tell you is have a pair of comfortable shoes, because you're going to do a lot of walking.
Yeah.
And you can't do that walking. You're not going to be able to do all that walking in pretty dress shoes or those heels that I see ladies in. Oh, I don't know how y'all do that. I couldn't imagine. No. So that's one of the very most important things I would tell you is definitely get you a pair of comfortable shoes. Secondly, with the latest transportation craze with Lyft and Uber, do Lyft and do Uber. You can save yourself a lot of time and trouble. Do Lyft and do Uber. To get you there is quick. I mean, trust me, you won't have a problem issue with it. That would be the next thing I tell you. Lyft and Uber, when I first started going to the trade show, they wasn't even around. So I was on the public transportation, which was okay. And then I was renting cars, which is a little bit expensive, and then you have to find a parking space. And then when you find a parking space, you're either going to valet it or you're going to have to pay for parking. So Uber, by the time you finished all that, Uber or Lyft is much cheaper. So that would be the second thing I say to keep in mind. Number 3 is before you even get to the show, go to the show's website and, kind of plan your show. Most of these trade shows allow you to plan your show. You want to know what it is specifically that you're looking for, whether it be branding, whether it be manufacturing your product. They have these type of companies there. If you want to take fabric and turn it into whatever, these type of companies will be there. So you got to know exactly what the most of your time needs to be spent on, and before you go to the show trying to figure that out before you even are in Las Vegas or whatever show that you're going to. You can do that on your computer. Go to the website, log on to the show, log into the website, and then just play around with it. If you need to call them, their contact information would be there. If you couldn't figure it out, call them and then tell them what your needs are, and they will aid and assist you in reference to what it is specifically that you're trying to look for, and that will help save you some time at the show, because you don't have enough time to actually just kind of freestyle these shows. The shows, you really have to be organized in order to get the most out of the show. It's too big of a venue to cover by yourself. It just is. So prepare yourself. They say the 5 P's, proper preparation prevents poor performance. I would suggest that you definitely get on the website and look into that. And I think that for me,
which website is that for this particular trade show? Is there an app, or I mean, how should they do that?
Yeah, and there is an app for most of the trade shows that we're dealing with in Las Vegas. Most trade shows, depending upon the size of the show, will have an app that you can download from your app store. The ASD, which is the General Merchandise Trade Show that's coming up this July 30th to August 2nd in Las Vegas, that has an app that you can download along with the website and contact information that you can get in touch with the people. The Magic Show, which is coming up, I think that's August 18th through the 21st. That show also has an app and the website that you can also do both things, call and plan your show. But let me say this to you about that Magic Show. It's also embodied with the WSA, which is the World Shoe Association. So now they have combined 2 shows into one, and there is no way possible that you're going to do both of those shows by yourself. No way possible, because the shoe show by itself was a phenomenal show. You got purses, you got accessories, you got shoes, and so many different vendors. Now, combining those 2, I don't know why they did that, but I just was like, wow, there's no way in the world that you can do both of those shows effectively freestyling. So you have to plan the show. Now, that both shows I just mentioned come twice a year to Las Vegas. So if you miss it in the fall, you can catch them both in the spring, But you definitely, again, the 5 P's, proper preparation prevents poor performance. And just prepare yourself for these shows. Always book your reservation, airfare, and hotel at least 6 weeks in advance for the best pricing. The further out, the better. But at least 6 weeks. When you go within a 4-week time frame, you're finna really pay to be in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is by far cheaper than any other place in the United States. Flying in and hotel, you can't beat the Las Vegas package, even within a less than 4 week time frame. But once you get used to dealing with it from the perspective of 6 weeks out or greater, you don't want to make yourself have to pay more. Now, there have been some exceptions to the rules. The last time I went by myself, I think I paid $300 for round trip and airfare, that was crazy. That number was really crazy to me, but it was out of the vacation season. So that's how I was able to achieve that ridiculously low price. But to give you some idea, those are the kind of numbers that you can pay for Las Vegas. That was the cheapest I ever paid. I usually pay around $500 to go to Las Vegas, stay 3 nights, 4 days. It's usually around $500 for the round fare and hotel. So, but that's being able to book it 6 to 4 weeks out from the day that I'm trying to be there. So just be smart and just be, aware of that. Those are some things that you should know before you try to go. So hopefully that helps you out.
Well, I didn't really notice anyone, with children and strollers. Did you see that there? Did you ever see that?
Well, children are not allowed at the show.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't allow children to go to a show. I think it's 18 and up. But no, they don't allow children to go to a show, which is something that I don't understand. I understand it. I do understand it, but at the same time, we're ushering in a new type of thinking in entrepreneurship, and that is the young people that are becoming entrepreneurs. So I'm sure something in the near future, I wouldn't be surprised if they change the rules dealing with that now. Because, see, one thing about America, America has child labor laws that prevent you from working until you get to the age of 16, but they have no law that says you cannot be an entrepreneur at any age. So
right.
With that being said, these trade shows really are going to have to accommodate room for young entrepreneurs that are less than the age of 16, because we know some personally that would benefit from attending these shows. So that's something that definitely, I'm not trying to take on anything as a battle for me, but I just know that thought is not, I didn't originate that thought. I'm sure someone else is already thinking like that. I'm pretty sure, and possibly we'll see if that's even a reality. I may even just give them a call just to see if that reality has been discussed, because that's definitely a reality in the entrepreneurship world.
Yes. Well, there are many that can benefit from the trade show. And I think most importantly, you all, if you are thinking that you need help in starting your business, in consultation, in getting to the trade show, or if you just have some questions, feel free to reach out to us. You could do that at weareblacks@gmail.com. weareblacks@gmail.com. You can definitely listen to us here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Our show goes for 2 hours. If you would like to be a guest on the show because your business needs exposure and you think that the world should know, this is the best place to be, because our listening audience is worldwide on Black Talk Radio Network. And we also want to encourage you to support blacktalkmediaproject.org. That is how you are listening to this wonderful programming and all of the other stations on Black Talk Radio Network. Well, people, we have got to bid you adieu again. Again, I want to say happy born day to my partner, co-host, and just everything in my life right now, Brother Robert. I hope that you have a wonderful day. I know that you have some plans today, and I hope that it is all that you dreamed of and more. And may God bless you in this new year of enlightenment.
Thank you very much, SiSi. Thank you so much for those kind and gentle and caring words.
You are welcome. Okay, well, you all, we're going to talk to you again at the same time next week. Feel free to reach out to us. Support blacktalkmediaproject.org. Good day, everyone.